Okay, so here's my build. Here's where I'm up to. My next step is to be able to mount the wheel and the pedals. Okay, and I'm planning on still doing the steering wheel and the joystick for flight, to be able to revolve them around 180 degrees, so it's quite easy to go between games. Same as the pedals. These hoops took me a lot of time to get right, especially with the spacing and everything, but it was well worth the extra effort. There's certain things you need to be careful on. So obviously the actuator points, the distances between the actuator points, also the base of this platform needs to be level with this framework, this upper framework, and also, so if you can get this level with this and that, and obviously also the rear actuator points, they're the important things. Okay, don't sweat the small stuff. Like if this frame here is this way 10 mil or up 10 mil compared to the rest of it, it doesn't really matter. Okay, because you can fix that with this. Okay, you can adjust this. I've actually got this running 10 mil back. This is 10 mil higher, this higher than that actuator point, because when I double checked everything, I noticed that the right and the left actuator points are spot on, which are level with this. Okay, but this is 10 mil lower. Okay, so I can either cut these and bring this up 10 mil, all right, but I could also pack the actuators up at the back 10 mil and alleviate that. So it doesn't matter that so as long as the front two actuator points are level with the frame, it's fine. So, I mean, so what do? So you fully weld all the base, you get that secure, you get all these hoops and this top section fully welded. Then when you cut this out, this doesn't move. This doesn't move, this is perfect. Okay? So, my plan is, this is not the plate, but I'm using 75 mil plate, so that'll get welded in there. That'll get one welded in there, and another one welded on that side. Same at the bottom. One here, one here. Okay, that'll all get fully welded. Then there'll be another plate that goes on the inside of that, which will have a pivot point in the center, which will allow this to rotate that whole rectangular frame. If you can imagine a rectangular frame welded up, that'll rotate over. Okay. The main concern is that I initially get the wheel in the right spot for myself, the right height, because as you know, most people that come around are going to play, you're only going to adjust the seat, you're not going to adjust the height of the wheel or where the shifter is or anything else. The great thing about this seat, okay, it's got heaps of adjustment. So I'm still planning on having the Baby Monster mounted here, the back. This is going to move to the back of this. Okay, that's another important thing I'll talk about. Okay, these main frames, okay, are fully welded. They were the first thing to be fully welded and put in a spot and tacked up. Important thing is that these are right, but everything else is tacked. So these are only tacked in spot, okay? Even though they're really important, they're just tacked in spot. That's all tacked in spot. These are tacked in spot. So these can just cut off and be moved if need be. These can't change. These are all tacked in spot, okay? But once I had this right, this level with this was fully welded. So this is fully welded. These are fully welded, okay? Because I couldn't cut this out until this is fully welded, because I didn't want to cut that out, fully weld this, and this move, okay? So this is between here and here, it's still concentric between these 2 points, okay? These hoops are right, which is important. So nothing else is going to change, okay? I can still adjust these by breaking the tacks. I can adjust them in and out. I could also move these up and down slightly by breaking the tacks, because I've still got a little bit of gap here. Now if I don't need to move them, I don't have to worry, because I can still weld that and fill that. That's no problem. Okay. So important thing when building a frame like this is to get the main structures fully welded, then tack everything up, and if you need to adjust, it's easy to adjust. If I'd have fully welded all these and then need to change it, the work that I would have to do to cut that out and mess with it, it's just, you just don't do that, okay? So look, I'm not saying that my way is exactly the right way, but it's the way that it works for me. And there's more than one way that you can do this, you know. So I'm just trying to give you some help if you decide to build something like this. It's like here, okay. So this hoop here, you know, it didn't match up perfectly there, so I had to put another little bend in here. But that'll get covered. I'm going to have another brace that goes across and down, so you won't even notice that you've got these here. This side, I was out a little bit, so I had to cut this pipe and pull it a bit. It's easier to, because the bender was on its max on doing these bends, okay? But for whatever reason, this one didn't work out exactly the same as that one. So I had to slit it and bend it, and then it's easy to cut almost right through that pipe and then re-weld it. So once that's all lineaged back, I mean, it's going to get bogged. You're not even going to see that anyway, so it doesn't really matter, you know. My plan is to get the steering wheel in exactly the right spot for me. I'm only 5'10", okay, but most of the time I'm going to be the one driving it. If you're going to have kids on it, that's fine. This particular seat, it's got heaps of adjustment. You know, the wheel's going to sit, you know, all the way back here. Now normally the seat will be back, for me, probably back there, and then if you've got a long person with long legs, it's got heaps of adjustment, and there's still enough room at the back for the actuator for the belts. So as far as I'm concerned, get the wheel at the right height, the right distance on an average for the seat, and then you can, you know, then it will suit a short person or a tall person. Now I've got, this is all based off my GT Ultimate. The light's no good, sorry. I've got a GT Ultimate set up. Some of you would be familiar with this. Now when people come around, I mean, I don't adjust the wheel up and down or the pedals. The seat goes in and out. So most of the time the kids put a couple of pillows behind them, or maybe the tall person, it doesn't quite go back far enough, you know. So where this seat will do both of those. So as long as I've got basically the steering wheel at the right height, it's still going to have a metal frame. So imagine that's going to get welded in there. That's not the bit of steel, it's 75mm high. One there, one on that side. Same at the bottom for the pedals. Okay, once that's welded in, after being drilled, there'll be another plate that goes onto that plate. It's going to be drilled, so there'll be a pivot point in the middle. So hopefully the steering wheel will be able to revolve 180 degrees, and then I will have the joystick there instead, same as the pedals. Okay. Look, I could do 4 bolts. I've got to undo 4 bolts, flip it, 4 bolts at the base, flip it. But you can buy these pins that they're just a you press with the thumb and you slide them in and you release, and they've got balls at the end, so you can't actually pull it out unless you press the knob in at the end. So it will be quite easy to revolve the system. I want everything plugged in. If I'm going to this extent, I want it to be easy to transfer between game to game. So if I want to do flight, then I feel like doing some racing. Look, this is not going to excite everybody, because some people just want to do car racing. But if I'm doing this platform, I want it to be able to do both and do it well, and also to be easily adjustable. I've also got to mount things like speakers. So, you know, I'm not convinced exactly where I'm going to put the speakers yet. I could put the speaker here. I could even put it down here, facing up. Obviously I've got 5 of these. There'll be a center one somewhere. At the back, I really want it facing back towards the driver, so I can make a bracket that comes across here and then back up. So it's really what I'm trying to say is the important things are get the main structures fully welded, and then other things you can adjust. Tack everything up. If you need to cut it and move it, it's much easier. I mean, those main frames, you don't have to change, you know. It's like this. I tack this on and then decide to do the seatbelt tensioner, right? Well, now this is in the way, but I only have 4 little tacks I can break off. This will then go to the back, okay, and then I'll put in the bracketry for the actuator, okay. So I'm getting there. So the floor, it's still going to be ground, still be painted, all the rest of it. So I'm going to basically have probably 6mm ply. Few USA guys or who want to work in Imperial, it's going to be 1/4 inch. It's going to be 6.35mm. But basically it'll follow this profile around underneath the seat, all the rest of it, and I'll probably put some carpet down. There'll obviously be a slight gap here, so that if I want to rotate the pedals, they'll rotate. Now I'm still not 100% sure that when the wheel's mounted, and the wheels imagine the wheel is there, okay, and then the wheel flips over. The wheel's actually going to be hanging upside down. I can see that, but anyway. I still think there's still plenty of room for the pedals, so it's out of the way. Might look a bit funny, but I'd rather do that than spending the 15-20 minutes plugging in, unplugging, plugging everything in, changing everything over. You know, so I'm happy to do the extra time and the effort to make it look nice. Look, I grew up in the age of arcade. You've seen some of the videos with the lights. You know, I want it to look that if you walked into an arcade and saw this, I want it to have all the flashy lights. I want it to have a presence, you know, and that's just me, right? That's not for everybody, and not everybody's going to be able to make this. So I'm just giving those guys that want to do this sort of build that they can achieve it. You know, a bit of patience, lots of measuring, a few grey hairs and scratching of the head. So, but it's definitely achievable, and it's actually quite cheap. You know what I mean? All this pipe work is not expensive. You know, it's cheap to purchase. You just need to spend the time. Sure, I could have done this in RHS in probably half the time. Nice straight cuts, much easier build. You know, or done the extrusion. The extrusion would have cost me a lot more to buy than to build this, for sure. There's no doubt about that. So, but I didn't really do it on the cost. I did it on the looks and the challenge, because I knew this would be challenging to build, and this is half the reason I've done this build, so I can get the satisfaction out of this project after I finished. You know, look, hopefully I can do a few more videos. Hopefully I haven't said too much. But you know, I really appreciate you guys on the forum. There's a lot more guys that are joined, and so now every time I go into Discord, instead of 1 or 2 posts, sometimes, like I think yesterday it was like 50 that I hadn't read. So it's crazy. But you guys are doing the VR stuff, and with the EMC stuff, like I'm not up to that. So I appreciate that. So when I come to do that, it should be smooth sailing. Hopefully I'll get my actuators next week. The base is done. I'm hoping to highlight these, light these up, maybe with the Thanos, maybe, something like that. And I've got to cut some stickers and do all that, but I'm still a fair way away from that. But this has been very challenging to do this, the pedals and the wheel, and try and get this right, because as it was just being fixed, and to pull up a standard wheel, and this is the GT Ultimate base on this. Not that I may necessarily use this base, but even to use different wheels, the great thing about this design will be that once this frame's in and these holes are drilled, this frame and the lower frame you can just unbolt and remove. And if you want to modify it and bolt in something else to suit, you can. Like especially if I find that when I build this frame and let's say I might need a slight angle between that pivot point, for the joystick, well then I can cut and change it. So at the end of the day, I'm still doing it for myself. So yeah, and I bought these cheap dollies from Bunnings. You probably don't have Bunnings, but you might have a hardware shop. But man, I did the base on this as well to paint it, and I could just spin it and paint it and all the rest of it. So if you want to move it around easily, and it's not because it's got a bit of weight in it. There's 120 kilos there, so just just a thought. It makes life nice and easy. But that's where I'm up to. So I'm hoping by the next few days I'll have these frames made up, and hopefully get the wheel and the pedals sitting in spot, and give you another pick, and hopefully it's sitting in the right spot for me, and we can go from there, because it's getting exciting, considering hopefully I get the actuators next week. So thanks for checking it out.